Hi, this is Gail with Beaded Jewelry Diva, and today we are going to have another wire crochet project. This time it is a bracelet. Now what's going to be interesting about this bracelet is that I'm not using cone ends on this bracelet. So before in my video tutorial with the necklace, you saw that I used cone ends. This time I'm not. I'm using a faux cone end, and I'll explain how we do that. So if you enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you don't already do so. And let's go ahead and see what we need to make this particular bracelet. Here's what we're going to need. We are going to need bead soup again, naturally. I do have everything from size 15 seed beads to probably 6mm rounds in this, so just get yourself a bunch of beads in whatever color scheme you want. I have a clasp. I have, of course, the crochet hook. I have 3 different colors of wire. You can just use one color of wire. I just happen to be using 3. And these are 26 gauge. You'll need a pair of wire cutters, a pair of round nose pliers, and I also have a pair of just regular chain nose pliers. And I have some Tool Magic on it. You do not have to have the Tool Magic. Just FYI, I just happen to like it. Just as an FYI also, I got this on Amazon. It was like $3 for a gazillion of these crochet hooks. You know, it took forever to get to me and everything, but these are perfect hooks for doing wire crocheting. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in. Let's go ahead and get started with making the bracelet. Okay, I am going to demonstrate this with 28 gauge wire. When you're using when you're actually making the project, I would use 26 gauge, but this acts a little bit more like thread, so it'll be easier to demonstrate with. So I've got the wire on the spool, and meanwhile I have strung some beads. So I've got about 4 or 5 inches on. Let me put on just a couple more beads. All right, so here is the end of my wire, and I want about 6 to 8 inches as a tail, and you'll see why later on, but we'll do that. Now to start this, and by the way, I am using a 4mm size crochet hook. I think this is about this is a good size. You could go a little bit less with maybe a 3.5 or 3mm. You could go slightly more. I wouldn't suggest one of the teeny tiny ones though. All right, so what I'm going to do is I put my wire over the hook, and then I am going to just gently twist it. So I'm going to twist it around twice, and I'm going to bring my tail end off to my right. And that's just so that I don't do something like what I did in the take before this. I should have videoed it or left it on. But what I did is I started merrily, crocheting away, and I didn't realize I was crocheting with my tail. Oh, the things we do. All right, oops. So to start out, you can see that I have just the loop, and you can see that I've got it twisted. Now I'm going to take the end of the wire that is connected to the spool. I'm laying it over my crochet hook, and I'm pulling it through. Take it over, pull through, take it over, pull through. Now if you do yarn crochet, that you'll find this very, very familiar, but just keep in mind this is wire, and wire is not quite as forgiving as yarn might be, so just keep that in mind, and especially in the beginning, go ahead and go slow. All right, so I've taken 3 beads from my spool, so from the beads further on down to this side, and I have slid them up next to the crochet. Again, I put my my wire over, and this time I'm going to leave a little bit of an extra space here because as I pull through, that's going to allow all these to sit up real easy, because if you don't allow a little extra space, you're going to end up in trouble. And I'll show you, this is exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to pull the wire too terribly tight on your loop. You want to make sure that you can do this without breaking your wire. And if you do break the wire, it's not that big a deal, and I'll show you a little bit about how to mend a broken wire if you get one. So this is what you should not do. So you can see that I've got my bead down here, and I've got my wire over. Now I'm trying to go ahead and get my wire through, and or my hook through, and it's tough because I didn't leave enough room for the bead and the wire. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and crochet roughly the length, or however long you want your finished bracelet to be, plus maybe a 1/4 inch. And this is the length of your finish, that, including the clasp and the whole 9 yards. Now this is going to shrink up some as we go ahead and work it and create it. So as it shrinks up some, you're going to need that extra space. So you're going to make it a little bit longer than you think you need. And if you make it it ends up being what you think is way too long, there's ways to get around that too. So okay, so I'm just about to the end. So what I'm going to do is just crochet, 2 or 3 empty hooks. Well, I guess I'll stay with 2. And now I want to go ahead and cut the wire. And again, I'm going to leave about 6 to 8 inches as a tail. And to finish this off, I like this. Just pull the wire, just pull the crochet hook up, and that goes ahead and closes the loop. I made a total of 5 of these. So as you can see, they're in different colors, and what I've done is I've taken them and I have twisted them together. So I just basically take them and twist. We'll take our end. So here's one of my ends. And then here's the other 4 wires. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to wrap it around the other 4. So it's just like doing a wrap loop. You're just wrapping. And the reason I'm doing that is to help keep these together. It's not absolutely necessary to do it, but I think it helps to keep the rest of these all nice and snug next to each other. So I've got this. I've still got a little bit of extra wire, which I'm going to use. Now let's take a look at this. We've got this, and this is what it looks like so far. When I look at it, I think I've got maybe a little bit here that looks a little bit too naked. In other words, it's fuller over here than it is here. So I need to fix that. But before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing to this end. I'm just going to go ahead and take a twist and wrap these. So once you've got this, now I want to find my spot that looked a little bare, like right here. So I'm going to take one of my other ones, not the turquoise one, because I've already used it for some wrapping. I'm going to use this one. By bending it over, I'm helping to secure it some. And now what I want to do is I'm going to just put on a few beads. I don't want them too terribly large at this point. I just want some smaller ones, up to like a 4mm bead would be good, or size 8. So now that I've got a few on my wire, I'm going to take it and put it down through one of the loops. So I'm actually coming out of one of the crochet loops. So you can see I've already gone ahead and put some extra beads there. Now this part looks a little naked. So I'm going to take a larger bead at this point. I'm going to pick up a size 4, I think, excuse me, a 4 millimeter, and then one of my 6 to 8, probably 8 millimeter, and then maybe a little bit of a smaller one. So I've got those. And now I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around. So I'm wrapping it around the entire set of wires. This does two things. It goes ahead and cinches it up a little bit, and it also goes ahead and connects this on. Now you may be saying, oh, well, gee, Gail, you've got some wire showing. Ha! Ye of little faith. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up a bunch of the size 11s and 15s and throw in a few 8s here and there. So I'm going to pick up about, an inch worth. So I will be back when I've got about an inch worth of beads. So now I've got about my inch worth of beads, and I'm going to take it and wrap it around. So in other words, I'm hiding my wires. Now I'm going to go ahead and feed my wire down into the bracelet. So I'm just going down into it. And now I'm at my area where I really want to add some extra beads. So I'm going to add them one at a time. So I have one, and I'm going to just pick a loop, put it through. I've got my bead. I'm going to go ahead and go back through that loop to snug it up some. Be very gentle when you're snugging it up, by the way. You don't want to break your wire. It may look like I'm kind of manhandling my stuff, but I'm actually being fairly cautious with the wire. So now I've got another one, and I think I'm going to also add a slightly smaller bead. Again, I'm going to put it down into the work so it comes out like that. Now you see that there's still some that look kind of wonky. Don't worry, we'll fix those a little bit later on. Right now I'm just showing you how to add a few extra beads when you need to. Now I'm going to go ahead and just tie off the wire. And to do that, I'm just going to put it in through one of the loops, pull it tight, or snug, I should say snug. Then one more time, snug, and then we take our cutters and clip. So at this point it looks a little bit more full on this side. Now we've still got all these extra wires, and we've got what looks like some ugly ends. So how are we going to make it so that the ends look nice? Now I finished off one end, and I was getting all set to show you how to finish off the other end when I noticed that I had what looks like a bare spot in my wire. And I thought, this would probably be just as good a time as any to show you how to fix something like this after you've ended up cutting all your wires, or even, put on the clasp and you see that you've got a bare spot. What I've done is I've taken a piece of wire, probably about 18 inches, and I just crocheted a small amount, so just a little bit. Now I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to find my bare spot, which for me is like right here, and I'm going to anchor anchor my wire. Try to do it under 2 wires. I'm going to anchor it a few wires up from where I want it. So I don't want to anchor it exactly where I think the bare spot is. I want to anchor it above the bare spot. So I'm just doing a couple of wire loops. Actually, probably 3 would be good. Snip it. Now here I've got my extra piece. So I see that my bare spot is right here. So I'm going to just kind of work it around to see how best I can fill in that spot. How I can wrap it so that I think it gives the most coverage and makes it the most even. And I think that looks pretty good, except for now I see a bare spot here. Uh-oh, what do we do about that? Well, fortunately, I still have about 4 inches of wire. So I'm just going to slide on a few of these. I use all kinds of beads, you know. Magatamas, rounds, seed beads. Everything's fair game for me for something like this. So I've got that. And it looks like it's pretty much filling the bare spot that I want it to. So now it's time to go ahead and tie it down. So that's the end of my beads. I'm going to wrap it into this loop. If I can get it. There we go. So I'm anchoring it. There we go. Now I'm going to wrap to secure. And I usually like to do this 2 or 3 times. Same general principle to go ahead and add wire to your crochet. If it's snapped or something, like you're in the middle of doing one of your lines of crochet and it snaps before you can even put it all together. Well, go ahead and end your little crochet and then use the same kind of idea to go ahead, go back a few crochet stitches and weave your wire in and then keep on crocheting. All right, so here's where it comes in with the round nose pliers. So I've got my round nose pliers and I'm going to make a simple wrap loop. So, and this is with both of my wires. So I'm not doing just one, I'm doing both of them. Wrap it around, and if you need to know how to do wrap loops, I do have a video on it. I can slip the jump rings in later. So I'm going to hold it, and this is where this one comes in, and I'm going to wrap both wires around. So there's my loop. And here are the 2 wires that are coming off. Now I'm going to zoom back out so you can see something. Now one of these wires is much longer than the other, and that's fine because I'm going to make use of this wire that's longer, because what we want to do now is make some sort of decorative end of this, because right now it looks kind of ugly being bare wire like this. We want to create call it a faux cone. And the way we do that is I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to put on about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of size 11 or size 15 seed beads. All right, I've got my seed beads on and I'm going to move the shorter wire up out of the way. So here's my wire with the beads, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap them around. So what I'm doing is in effect creating a faux cone. Now I could have gone ahead and done what I've done with I think the necklace, and that is feed all the wires into an actual cone and then go ahead and make the wrap loop. But I thought this was something interesting, and also this comes in handy for something else. And do try to be neat, by the way, as you're doing this. Now what happens if when you do this and you find out that you have actually made your bracelet too short? and say this isn't going to really fit around your wrist, what you can do is you can make a long neck for this, and you can create a faux cone to go ahead and wrap the beads around. So basically what you're doing is you're hiding a naked length of wire. So I can wrap it down, I can wrap it around, I can wrap it so that it looks like it's an integrated part of the bracelet. So in other words, you don't want it looking like an afterthought. So I have some bare wire here, so I am going to, you know, and I know that I've been saying so much. I do apologize for that. Every once in a while I get onto words and I just keep repeating them. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and take a few of these extra off because that was more than I wanted to get to this point. So to hide this bare wire, and there I did another sew. Oh well, forgive me. Now that I've got that pretty much in place, I'm going to finish it off with a wrapped loop, excuse me, a wrap, just to make sure that it's nice and secure. Don't let it be messy. Snip it. Now I've got this extra piece of wire. It's actually already wrapped underneath here, and I could have just cut it off earlier, but I like to go ahead and keep this on in case after I do this I find another spot that up near here that needs a little bit more attention. But I think I'm good. So I'm just going to snip this, and please do not snip your loop. If you've seen this one other video that I did, you'll understand what I mean by that, because I was going through it and I was doing everything right up until the point where I cut the wrong piece of leather cord, and I had to do the whole thing over again, but I left that part of the video in because I figured you'd want to see me making a mistake. Alright, so what I've done, and there I go with the sew again. What I have done is I've put on my first jump ring, and I'm going to go ahead and put on 3 jump rings, a total of 3. Ta-da! Here's the finished bracelet with the butterfly clasp, toggle clasp, all in place. So here is the finished product, and this is my second time doing this one. I want to show you what happens when you do something and you try it out and it doesn't work out quite the way you expect. This was my first go around with this one, and you can see that it looks strange. I decided I was going to try to use some shells, and that didn't work out too well. I decided that I was going to use only 4 strands of the crochet wire. That didn't work out. I've got all sorts of bare spots, but I did get the good idea of doing the wrapped cone at each end, and this shows you a better example of how you can lengthen a bracelet if you need it longer. So you can see here I don't have too much of a wrapped end, whereas here I have much longer wrapped end. So this is one way to, again, go ahead and extend your bracelet if for some reason you've made it too short. Now what about if you've made it too long? If you made it too long, just go ahead and twist it more. So just keep on twisting until you've got it as short as you want it to be. So, and actually it looks better when it's shorter. Yeah, twisting can hide a multitude of sins at times. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this particular video, all the strange things that happened during it and all. If you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I hope you've had a fun time. This is Gail signing out saying have yourself a beautiful day. Bye.